We'll continue our reading of the Bushman's Guide. We're on page 6. We're going to read Lost in the Bush and A Man is Lost. In the Tennant Creek district of the Northern Territory, it was discovered one day that an old man was missing. He was not in his little house at the back of the township and evidently had not been there for some time. When we were notified of this fact, it was not long before we discovered that at his camp, further out in the bush, there was no trace of his presence. He had not been there for some weeks. We who were living in the bush had taken it for granted that he was in the township, whilst the people there had concluded that he was camping out beyond where we were living. A search was immediately organized. The Aborigines of that district, being expert trackers and knowing the country well, were the principal searchers. Day after day, the district was combed and every likely place examined, but without yielding a single clue. Rain had fallen some time previously, making any thought of tracking futile. At length, the body of the old man was discovered, reposing in the last sleep, under the shade of a bush. He had perished some weeks earlier, having lost his way in a lonely and desolate part of that country. Not a great while previously, in the same district, a young doctor and his wife had set out on an errand of mercy to the Rockhampton Downs station, a distance of 100 miles on the old stock route. It was in a burning summer, and the car developed trouble. There was no habitation of any kind along the way. The young couple, who were in their early 20s, set out to walk, but died in each other's arms before they could reach the goal. Later, the police, together with an Australian inland missionary, drove out along the same track and had the unspeakably sad task of bringing back the bodies of this bright and promising young couple. The same inexorable country had swallowed up the lives of the doctor and his wife in the freshness of their youth, and the old man at the end of life's journey. Hundreds upon hundreds have been lost and have perished in the inland of Australia. How many have died of thirst and that appalling loneliness no historian will ever be able to record. But one thing is certain: the moment it is discovered that someone is missing, all other considerations fall into the background. A man is lost. An awful feeling spreads abroad. Where was he last seen? What can be done? Everyone who can do so rallies to join in the search. And who would grudge any effort at such a time? Perhaps a great deal of toil and time may be spent tramping in wrong directions and in mistaken efforts. But what does that matter? A life is at stake. It's all in it, as the people of the bush would say. One day, when traveling in a train in western Queensland, the rider was talking to several bushmen about the things that matter most. One of them, who had been drinking freely, revealed some of his troubles and bitter disappointments. Among other troubles, he had been deserted by his wife, but he did not blame her. "There's no hope now," he said. "I'll just go on drinking till the end. I'm lost." Well, they don't get out of a search party to look for the people who are living peaceably at home. It's the man who is lost that they look for. If you are lost, you're just the man that God is seeking. The Lord said that he had come to seek and to save that which was lost. In the parable, long ago, it was the shepherd who found the sheep, not the sheep that found the shepherd. That sheep was lost and weak and helpless. It neither knew the way nor had the strength to find it. Then the shepherd carried the sheep back home. He not only knew the way, but to the lost sheep he was himself the way. There was no other hope. That is a picture of ourselves. If God does not look for us, we have no chance of ever finding our own way to him and to his everlasting home. In the wide spaces of Australia, there are many who are wandering through life like a man lost in the bush. Somewhere, they know there is a better life, a life that answers to the deep longings of the human heart. There is a way that leads to lasting satisfaction, to genuine happiness, and something that is really worthwhile. That way is called in the Bible the way of peace, and the way of life. The only alternative leads to disappointment, trouble, and doom. It is called the way of death. A man who is lost knows only too well that disappointment and death will be his portion unless somehow he finds the way to civilization and life before it is too late, and he can never rest until he finds that way. Can we rest until we find the way of life itself? How can we find the way? That is the most important question in the world, and it is this question that we are seeking to answer now. Does anything else really matter? In our next video, we'll read The Only Guide. To God be the glory.